Thank you. All right, everyone. In the chat box, just put on a scale of 0 to 10. 0, I know nothing about EFT, and 10, I'm very familiar with it. Okay. I'm nuts. There we are. 5, 8, pretty familiar. 2, okay.
Yes, Rob, I am.
Who was that?
Don't talk to me now, okay?
Okay, I'm going to mute everybody.
Muted.
And just work with the chat box until Patty comes on later. Okay, so for the people who aren't familiar, EFT is a tapping technique that uses the same logic as acupuncture, but without the needles. And so as we're going through life, we have things that happen that don't feel good, that get stored in our body. And it's part of life. Nobody escapes it. In childhood, if you're going, as a child, I was a chatterbox. I don't know about everybody else, but I was just motor mouth all the time. And I look back now and I'm like, oh gosh, how did my mother ever listen to me? So we get shut down a lot as children, and we don't get heard. And so people respond to us in ways that don't feel good. And, when it first happens, our brain goes, ooh, that didn't feel good. And we get a little bit of a neural pathway in our brain. I tried to speak my truth. I tried to ask for something, and I got a response that didn't feel good. It creates a little neural pathway, like a little path in the dirt in our brain. And then we go on, and it happens again. And the brain says, oh, that's a lot like the last time that happened, and it makes that pathway a little bit deeper. And we proceed through life. We get into school. Things happen in school. We try to speak our truth. We try to ask for what we want. We get shut down. It doesn't feel good. And this pathway in our brain grows, and it goes from being a little footpath to being a superhighway over time. And our brain generalizes our experiences and says, okay, when I try to speak my truth, when I try to ask for what I want, it's going to go to this response. And that response may feel like ick in your stomach. It might feel like a knot in your throat. Any kind of reactions can happen to associate with that in your body. But what happens with EFT is we activate that feeling, that memory of being shut down, of not being able to say what we need to express. We activate that in our body by remembering something and feeling those feelings again. And while we're remembering that and we have that feeling active in our body, we tap on the acupuncture points. There's a series of points that we're going to use, and I'm going to go through those with you. And by tapping on those points, our amygdala, our old brain, releases the emotion connected to that experience. And so we're clearing that pathway so that we can make new choices from our adult perspective in how we want to respond to situations and how we want to feel about situations. So the other night when Stefan asked, what's stopping you? All I heard were things that are so good to use tapping on. Fears, anxieties, not feeling enough. There's so much that we can do with tapping to resolve those things to help everybody move forward. So I wanted to just first walk you through the tapping points, and then as we're doing the exercises, I'll be tapping and you'll be able to see me tapping and you can just follow the example. But I want to make sure you understand where they are. It's not exact. If you get in the vicinity of the spot, it's going to be sufficient. And there are a lot of spots on the body that are acupuncture points. We use a certain series. If you watch videos on YouTube, people might add one or take one away. It doesn't matter. When they first started with this, they tried to associate certain emotions with certain tapping points, and it was realized that if you just hit all the points, you're going to hit everything and it's going to clear. So they've simplified it quite a bit from the early days. So the first spot that we're going to do is called the karate chop point, and that point is on the side of your hand by your little finger, that fleshy section between your wrist and your little finger. And when we tap there, we'll use 2 or 3 fingers of the other hand and just gently tap. You don't have to knock yourself out. And we'll do that at the beginning of each tapping session. And we'll do that with what's called the setup statement, which is where we kind of frame the issue that we're going to be working with. And after we finish with the setup statement, which we generally go through about 3 times, then we'll go through the tapping points with a reminder phrase. And so these are the tapping points. The first one is on the inside of the eye. That's right where your eyebrow comes to an end near your nose. You can feel a bit of a bone there. And I usually use 2 fingers. That way you're sure to get it. And then the second point is on the outside of the eye. It's on that little bone just where your eye socket is, just to the side of your eye. You can tap on either side of the body, or you can tap on both, whatever works for you. These meridian points connect in with each other, and it doesn't really matter. The third point is directly under your eye, under your pupil. And if you feel there's a little bone under your eye, there's actually a little notch kind of in the middle, and you can feel that. So that's the third point under the eye. The next point is under the nose, between your nose and your lip, and then on your chin, between your mouth and bottom of your chin. The next point is your collarbone point, and that's where you have this indentation right under the collarbone. On either side, you can tap on one side or the other. I like to use my hand spread out and just tap on both sides. And then the next point is under your arm, and that's about 4 inches below your armpit, under your arm. For most women, that's on your bra line. And then the last point we'll use is on the top of the head, and that's kind of the middle of your head. If you draw a line from your ears, it would be the top of your head, right where that line meets above your ears. That's an important point because all the meridians come together right there. So in the chat box, are there any questions about the tapping points? And again, you'll be seeing those as we go through the process. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm assuming we've got that down. I thought I would start with just a little generic tapping exercise that can illustrate for you how this works in general. And this is called the constrictive breathing exercise. So what I want you to do is just take 2 or 3 nice deep breaths, trying to fill your lungs up as deeply as possible. And then I want you to take a breath and evaluate on a 100% scale. Did you get your lungs 100% full, or 80%, or 60%? So take a breath. And type in the chat box how full, what percentage of fullness you think you got your lungs with that deep breath. $85, $90, great. Some more. Okay. I only got 2 responses, so I'm just kind of, okay, there's a third one, 80%. I've got 10 people, so I would expect to see about 10 responses in the chat box. Make sure your chat's going to everyone. Another 80%, okay? All right, so now we're going to do just a little bit of tapping on that breathing. And this is just for us to get a feel for the process. So we'll start tapping on the karate chop point. I'm going to say a phrase, and then you tap and repeat the phrase out loud yourself. So I'm going to unmute Patty. Patty, you can be my echo. Can you say something so I can be sure I can hear you now?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, great.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Let me get this to work.
So Patty, you can be my echo. So when I tap, they'll be able to hear you too, and they'll voice the words along with you.
Okay.
So even though I'm not breathing to my full capacity,
Even though I'm not breathing to my full capacity,
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I'm not breathing to my full capacity,
Even though I'm not breathing to my full capacity,
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I'm not breathing to my full capacity,
Even though I'm not breathing to my full capacity,
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Now, on the inside of the eye, not breathing at full capacity,
Not breathing at full capacity,
side of the eye, not breathing at full capacity,
not breathing at full capacity,
under the eye, not at full capacity,
not at full capacity,
under the nose, not at full capacity,
not at full capacity,
on the chin, not at full capacity,
not at full capacity,
collarbone point, not at full capacity,
not at full capacity,
under the arm, not at full capacity,
not at full capacity,
and top of the head, not at full capacity.
not at full capacity.
Okay, so everybody take another deep breath and see if you see an improvement. And then type in the chat box if you feel like you went up 5 or 10%, 15%, whatever. I felt like I picked up about 5% that time. Okay, so Karen says that the chats mess up the video. Okay, I'm kind of relying on the chats, but that's okay. Some of this, if it messes your video up, oh, the recording for you. Okay, great. Thank you, Karen. I understand now. Okay, so that was just a way to introduce you to the points. And what I wanted to do is reference a specific topic. I want to talk about borrowing benefits because I'm going to be tapping with Patty Jones in the next section, but I want everyone to benefit. So the other night when Stefan asked, what's stopping you? There were quite a few different answers. And the one that Patty brought up is a great one, and I wanted to use her as an example because it's something that I know affects a lot of people, and that's picking up the phone to call prospects. So she has several thoughts and beliefs that she says support that limiting belief and not feeling like picking up the phone and making those phone calls. That's what's stopping her. She feels invisible. She doesn't expect to be taken seriously. She doesn't feel like she's expert enough, and she can't think on her feet. She gets flustered. So what I would like each of you to do is identify one thing that's stopping you, one thing inside of you that's stopping you from being successful or more successful with your art business, and write that down. So for Patty, she can't pick up the phone to call up prospects. And for someone else, it might be another issue. In fact, if somebody wants to type something into the chat box, that would be great. But what we're going to do is have you write down your issue, and when I tap with Patty, when I'm talking about her issues, you're going to tap along and borrow the benefits of her tapping. So when we get done tapping, you should see an improvement in how you feel about your issue. So does everybody have something written down that they want to focus on today? And okay, so whatever that is, if you can identify an emotion, a belief, a feeling in your body, anything that's associated with that. So, Patty, let's start talking about your situation for just a minute. When you go to pick up the phone to call prospects, Patty, and Patty, if you can turn on your webcam, that would be great.
I'm still trying to do it. Honestly, okay. I don't understand why this is.
That's fine. Yeah. So when you go to pick up the phone to call somebody, Patty, what's the feeling you get in your body?
Anxiety, probably, would be a good word to describe it.
Where do you feel that?
In my jaw.
In your jaw. What does your jaw feel like?
Tight.
I'm sorry, tense?
Tight.
Tight. Your jaw feels tight. Okay. Is there any place else in your body, any other sensation that goes along with that?
Yeah, maybe that I kind of lose my breath.
Okay. So
that's
you get
about it.
Tightness in your jaw and you feel like you're going to lose your breath.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So for everybody else, if you have some feelings that go along with what you've identified as an issue for you, write those down too. Okay? So Patty, if you were going to, as soon as you got done talking to me, pick up the phone and call a prospect, imagine that you're getting ready to do that. And you feel this tightness in your jaw, you feel this anxiety, you feel like you're going to lose your breath. On a scale of 0 to 10, what's the level of intensity of that feeling?
Well, I would say it's a 10 because most of the time I don't do it. And
Okay.
It prevents me from doing it.
Stops you. Okay. So I want everybody to put a score, 0 to 10, as to how intense that feeling is. Okay. And just write that down, because when we get done, we'll evaluate where you're at. Patty, is there a time in your life, if you just kind of close your eyes and think back, can you go back to a time early in your life when you felt that tightness in your jaw and like you were going to lose your breath, where this same feeling of anxiety was in your body?
Sure, yeah. Uh-huh. Do I need to describe it? Yes, I do recall feeling that a lot when I was a child. And of course, I came from a family that was, children are seen and not heard.
I thought you might. Children are seen and not heard. About how old were you when you picked up that belief?
Oh, gosh. Less than 7, but older than 5, between 5 and 7.
5 to 7 years old. I certainly can relate to that particular one. I know in our house it was, if anybody else was there, we were supposed to be quiet unless don't speak unless you're spoken to, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't need to say all those details out loud, Patty, but if you can imagine a specific event where you were supposed to be seen and not heard, and maybe you were heard and you got in trouble for it, that's what we want to start tapping on. So we're at a 10, and this fits right in with that belief of feeling invisible, doesn't it?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And everybody, you should be drinking water when you're doing tapping. It just helps to hydrate your body. So everybody have something hopefully written down. You have a belief about it. You might have some feelings in your body. And if you can think back and find an event in your childhood, particularly 5 to 7 years old is a good time. Any time before the age of 6 is really where these things get locked into ourselves. And make sure you have it written down what your level of intensity is. And Patty, we're going to start tapping on your particular situation here. Okay?
Good.
Even though I feel this anxiety,
Even though I feel this anxiety,
when I think about calling prospects,
when I think about calling prospects,
I deeply accept myself.
I deeply love and accept myself.
Even though I feel this anxiety,
Even though I feel this anxiety,
when I think about calling prospects,
when I think about calling prospects,
I feel this anxiety in my tight jaw.
I feel this anxiety in my tight jaw.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel this anxiety,
Even though I feel this anxiety,
when I think about calling prospects,
when I think about calling prospects,
I feel invisible.
I feel invisible.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
This anxiety
This anxiety
about calling prospects,
about calling prospects.
I'm supposed to be seen, not heard.
I'm supposed to be seen and not heard.
I get this anxiety,
I get this anxiety,
this tightness in my jaw,
this tightness in my jaw,
feel like I'm losing my breath.
feel like I'm losing my breath.
I can't pick up the phone.
I can't pick up the phone.
I can't call a prospect.
I can't call a prospect.
It's not okay for me to be heard.
It's not okay for me to be heard.
I have all this anxiety,
I have all this anxiety,
this tightness in my jaw,
this tightness in my jaw,
feel like I'm going to lose my breath.
feel like I'm going to lose my breath.
I can't be seen and heard.
I can't be seen and heard.
I was taught not to be seen and heard.
I was taught not to be seen and heard.
I should be invisible.
I should be invisible.
I have this anxiety
I have this anxiety
about calling prospects.
about calling prospects.
Okay, just take a deep breath and check in. We're not done. We're just getting started. But at this point, do you feel something different? How do you feel on that scale of 0 to 10 now?
I feel like I have a little bit more understanding, and
Okay.
so that lessens the anxiety. But I still couldn't pick up the phone right this minute.
Sure. So on the scale of 0 to 10, where are you?
8,
Okay.
8 or
Okay. And are you feeling anything else different in your body? Is it still the tightness in your jaw and the feeling of losing your breath?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it still anxiety, or is there anything else coming up with it?
It's hard to describe, but because it sounds silly to say that it's a fear, because there's nothing that I can put my finger on that I'm afraid of.
Okay. Just
But
a general fear.
yeah, and that's sort of why I call it anxiety, because I can't really name it, name the fear. I'm not frightened of people. I certainly enjoy talking to people.
Sure.
It's just an uncomfortable feeling.
Okay. All right, let's start again with tapping. I'm sorry, I need another sip of water. Okay. Even though I feel this fear,
Even though I feel this fear,
this uncomfortable feeling,
this uncomfortable feeling,
this tightness in my jaw,
tightness in my jaw,
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel this fearful anxiety,
Even though I feel this fearful anxiety,
this tightness in my jaw,
this tightness in my jaw,
the need to be invisible,
the need to be invisible,
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel this fear,
Even though I feel this fear,
this uncomfortable feeling,
this uncomfortable feeling,
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Inside of the eye, this anxiety,
This anxiety,
this fearful anxiety,
this fearful anxiety,
this uncomfortable feeling,
this uncomfortable feeling,
tightness in my jaw,
tightness in my jaw,
feeling like I'm going to lose my breath.
feeling like I'm going to lose my breath.
I'm supposed to be seen but not heard.
I'm supposed to be seen but not heard.
I should be invisible.
I should be invisible.
It's not safe to speak up.
It's not safe to speak up.
I feel this fearful anxiety,
I feel this fearful anxiety,
this tightness in my jaw,
tightness in my jaw,
this uncomfortable feeling.
this uncomfortable feeling.
I feel invisible.
I feel invisible.
I can't pick up that phone.
I can't pick up that phone.
I can't call prospects.
I can't call prospects.
I'm afraid to call them.
I'm afraid to call them.
I get very anxious.
I get very anxious.
I can't move forward.
I can't move forward.
I can't pick up the phone.
I can't pick up the phone.
I get this tightness in my jaw.
I get this tightness in my jaw.
I feel like I'm losing my breath.
I feel like I'm losing my breath.
I have this horrible anxiety,
I have this horrible anxiety.
just like when I was a kid.
Just like when I was a kid.
Little girl, about 6 years old.
Little girl about 6 years old.
Wasn't okay for her to speak out.
Wasn't okay for her to speak out.
That started this anxiety,
That started this anxiety.
this tightness in my jaw,
This tightness in my jaw.
this feeling like I'm losing my breath,
This feeling like I'm losing my breath.
being afraid to speak out.
Being afraid to speak out.
I could be seen but not heard.
I could be seen but not heard.
I needed to be invisible.
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 I take a deep breath. What are you noticing now?
Well, I have to say, I think it's hysterical that I can't get on the webcam, and so, but I need to be invisible.
The universe is so good.
Seriously, but but you know, as we went through that last one, yeah, I do. I understand it much more, and it feels so much better because it's silly that I feel it's silly to feel that way.
I don't think it's silly, and I don't want you to be hard on yourself. We learn this as children. We are told that it's not okay to speak up. It's not okay to ask for what you want. We are taught that. It's stored in our bodies. It is ingrained in our neural circuitry in our brain. We learn that the only way to stay safe is to be quiet. So it was a perfect strategy for the child. It's just not serving you now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. I mean, don't feel like the child made a mistake there. The child did the best could be done in the situation, right?
Yeah, sure. It's very
I know in my house,
painful to think back.
Yeah. If I had spoken up at times when they told me to be quiet, I would have gotten a whipping. It would have looked a lot like 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, right. It's pretty scary.
Yeah. So it absolutely makes sense. So with all of these things, do not think that you were wrong. You did the best you could. A 5-6-year-old kid, you don't have any other choices. You learn to be invisible. It becomes a pattern in your brain. And that's what we want to completely knock out. So, Patty, right now, what is your level of intensity when you think about I can't pick up the phone to call prospects?
I think I'm down to maybe a 5.
Okay.
If you make me call a prospect after this, my anxiety might go right back up. But no, I'm teasing. No, I'm actually understanding it a lot better, and it feels good to have someone say that to me, that, you know, the child did what was safe. And that resonates very, very much.
Okay, well, let's do some more tapping. And the idea is to get you down to a very low score and to open up options for you and choices.
Cool.
Okay? I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire and make you go call. You're not in my downline.
Okay. We're good then.
No, we're cool. No. But I do want you to, you know, to get the freedom to choose.
Right.
And the freedom to be freed from that pattern that was stored in your brain.
Right. And I wanted to say I actually did try to overcome this, although during the call yesterday, I actually called a prospect yesterday in anticipation of this today. And so I tried to overcome it, and it was very difficult. So after this call session, I'll take my temperature on my next prospect call and see if it's a little bit more comfortable for me.
Yeah. So now when you think about calling a prospect, what's the biggest thing that comes up for you?
I'm not sure. You know, 1,000 things run through my mind, and maybe other people feel this way as well. You know, will they answer the phone? If they answer the phone, what will I say? If they don't answer the phone, what kind of a message will I leave? When I leave a message, will my voice sound okay, or will I sound annoyed? Will they call me back? Will I call them back? You know, all of those things kind of go through your mind, or my mind, all at one time. So I get flustered, and that's why I say I kind of can't think on my feet.
Okay. So we're kind of moving to another aspect. When you just think about the aspect of feeling invisible and feeling like you can't speak up, that piece, where's that piece?
That piece is getting better. I've been practicing in a lot of different areas on that piece, and after just these couple of tapping rounds, it's beginning to kind of fold into place in my mind that that I'm feeling a bit more comfortable with that.
Okay.
That it's okay to speak up.
Okay. So we'll do some tapping on this is skill you're talking about now.
Yeah, sure.
It's skills. And I don't think anybody could have a better organization for building skills than what we have.
Right, exactly.
So it's just a matter of taking advantage of the overwhelming amount of information that's available for us to learn. And so let's just do some tapping on that aspect of it. And since that we're talking about various aspects, I just want to let everybody know there are a lot of aspects and dimensions to any issue that comes up. And so sometimes people will tap on a particular thing and they just tap on one aspect of it. And they think that's supposed to work and be done with it. And what happens is it shifts. That particular aspect might diminish to an irrelevant level, but the next thing kind of comes up. And so my point here is you need to be persistent and notice what's the next aspect that's come up and do the tapping on that aspect next and move through. And it may take a while before you get through all the things that will come up for you. But if you tap on each and every one of them, you can work through something so that you remove those limiting beliefs. But they're not usually just one thing. It is usually layers and layers like an onion. And so don't be too hard on yourself and don't think that didn't work just because you tapped on one thing and that felt a little better, but oh, nothing's changed. Well, there's probably another layer and another layer. So keep digging. So Patty, let's go ahead and tap some more. Even though I get flustered.
Even though I get flustered.
When I pick up the phone to call a prospect.
When I pick up the phone to call a prospect.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I get flustered.
Even though I get flustered.
I'm not sure what to say.
I'm not sure what to say.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I get flustered.
Even though I get flustered.
I'm not sure I'm going to say the right thing.
And I'm not sure I'm going to say the right thing.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I get flustered.
I get flustered.
If I get an answering machine, I don't know what to say.
If I get an answering machine, I don't know what to say.
If I get a human, I really panic.
If I get a human, I really panic.
I'm not sure what I'm going to say.
I'm not sure what I'm going to say.
I've got all this training.
Got all this training.
But I get flustered.
But I still get flustered.
And then my brain's not working well.
And then my brain doesn't work well.
When I'm flustered, I can't remember the right things.
When I'm flustered, I can't remember the right things.
So even if I know it, if I'm flustered, I'm not able to do it.
If I'm flustered, I'm not able to do it.
I don't want to be flustered.
I don't want to be flustered.
I want to be calm.
I want to be calm.
I have all the information.
I have all the information.
I have all the tools I need.
I have all the tools I need.
I have so many resources.
So many resources.
I can ask any question and get a good answer.
I can ask any question and get a good answer.
I don't need to be flustered.
I don't need to be flustered.
In the past, I didn't know what to say.
In the past, I didn't know what to say.
So of course I got flustered.
So of course I got flustered.
But now I know better.
But now I know better.
There's no need to be flustered.
There's no need to be flustered.
I know so much more.
I know so much more.
I'm learning more all the time.
Oh, I'm learning more all the time.
Getting so much good training.
Getting so much good training.
I'm acquiring such amazing skills.
I'm acquiring such amazing skills.
I don't need to be flustered.
I don't need to be flustered.
I can let that go.
I can let that go.
I can relax.
I can relax.
I can be calm.
I can be calm.
I can respond intelligently to the answering machine.
I can respond intelligently to the answering machine.
I can start a good conversation with a prospect.
I can start a good conversation with a prospect.
I'm trained. I know what to say.
I'm trained. I know what to say.
I can be calm.
I can be calm.
I don't need to be flustered.
I don't need to be flustered.
I can be calm.
I can be calm.
Okay, take a deep breath. What are you feeling now?
Feel great.
Yeah.
New prospect. Yeah, it's remarkable, but it does feel so much better just to even think about it. And it's particularly interesting to me how it folds over into my early training of not being able to speak. I got rid of that anxiety, and now this anxiety is much less.
Good. So on a scale of 0 to 10, where are you now?
Well, on this second one, I would say that's a 3. I know you're right. I know what to say.
Yeah. So are you at a 0?
Not 0 yet, maybe 3, but
3?
Pretty close. Pretty close, yeah.
Okay. If there was anything else we needed to tap on about that, what would it be?
I don't think there's anything else that I would need to tap on. I think this is like an awesome success. I can't wait to see it again, to see the recording and go through it again, because I'm sort of too much in it that but no, it is an amazing thing. I've seen EFT do amazing things, and I like that you explained how one issue, when it kind of gets a little relief, another issue comes up. Oh, yeah. Because that has been, and that to be persistent with it. But do you need someone like you to script this, or do you script it yourself?
Either one is fine. I want to definitely share a little bit more about how to move forward for yourselves. Okay. So I'll go ahead and do that. The words that I'm saying when we're tapping are not really important. The purpose of the words is to keep your mind focused on those feelings. You need to be connected into those feelings when you're tapping on them for the tapping to release them. Okay? You don't need to be in deep trauma. If you've got some childhood event that's really traumatic, don't go tapping on it thinking you're going to clear it. In that situation, definitely get with someone who's trained to work with you, or go see a psychologist if you need to. But if you have this, everyday annoying limitation in your life, you can tap on that for yourself. You want to look for any childhood event you can relate to. You get to the childhood events usually by identifying the feelings in your body and asking yourself, when did I start feeling this? What was the first time I felt this that I can remember? You want to bring up that memory, access that, tap on it, tap on the feelings until they're dissolved. The feelings quite often will move around. That the tightness in your jaw, sometimes these things will move into your body into various places as you tap on it. So just follow those feelings and tap them out. You can definitely do a lot on your own. There are times that I find I benefit tremendously from the perspective of working with someone. And I am available. I'm getting my certification, and I am building a practice working with people. And until I get certified, I have very discounted fees for sessions. So, if anybody wants to be guided specifically through their stuff, that is a possibility. You can very much do so much for yourself on your own. So I want to check in with everybody else and find out if you think now about the issue that you wrote down and the beliefs and feelings that you wrote down. Do you see a change in the level of intensity just by having tapped along with Patty? And if anybody wants to just speak, I can unmute your microphone if you just want to say something in the chat box. Okay, Mary says that she has some less, I think, intensity. The research has shown that people usually do get benefit from tapping along with somebody who's tapping on a different topic. Because you activate those feelings in yourself when you make note of them, and you bring them up, and your brain is really smart at connecting the dots for you and applying the learning to your own situation, even though you're tapping along with someone else. Anybody else have any feedback? Okay. So Judy says she's feeling less tension in her body. Looking forward to exploring this further. Good. Anybody else? Yeah.
Oh,
Here.
Lisa,
Yes.
where do you recommend if someone wanted to explore this further? Where do you recommend that they go?
There are many excellent resources online. The most popular book out there on the topic is called The Tapping Solution by Nick Ortner. And Nick also did a movie, which is a great big picture look at EFT. He brought in about a dozen people for a 4-day workshop of EFT with a host of different types of issues, emotional, physical, some of them very intense. And in the movie, they worked with those people for 4 days, and then they got back with them months later to see how they were doing. And it's quite astounding what was accomplished. So thetappingsolution.com, They're actually holding the Tapping World Summit right now. You can register for that by going to the Tapping Solution. It's another 5 days, I think. They have 2 speakers each day, about an hour each, that you can listen to. And today, I think the ones that start tonight at 8 o'clock are on procrastination. Should be interesting.
They are. Yes, they are.
Yeah, so those are really good resources. I have a group that I've been doing a book study with. Margaret Lynch has a book called Tapping into Wealth, and I have a Facebook group where we have been doing a book study. We just completed chapter 10. There's 17 chapters in the book. When you're looking at money issues, I think Margaret Lynch has a really good, very comprehensive book about that. She came from the financial arena, and she has a lot to offer for helping you dig into things that affect your beliefs about money and your ability to have money in your life. So that's really good. We're actually kind of too far along in that to have other people join us at this time, but we've had a lot of fun and learned a lot and have cleared a lot working through that. The organization that I'm getting certified through is EFT Universe, and there is a website, EFTuniverse.com. There's a search on the left, midway down on the EFT Universe site. There's a drop-down list for topics, and you can pick a topic from there, and it'll take you to related articles and videos on that particular topic. So there's a lot of resources available if you want to explore the tapping further. I'm going to unmute everybody. If it's noisy, I'll have to mute it, but there's not that many of us. If anybody has, okay. I was going to unmute, but I can't figure out how to unmute all. Oh, okay. Well, so much for that. I can't figure out how to mute it all, but I can't unmute all. There we go. Does anybody have any further
Unmuted.
questions, comments?
I have one.
Yes.
So, how often or when is the best time to do the tapping? Like right before you plan to call prospects, or the night before, or on a regular basis, or how would you go about doing that?
I would say whenever you can. And if you're going to call prospects, if you can spend 5 minutes tapping before you do, it'll probably go better. If you know that you're going to be setting aside time to call prospects tomorrow, it would be good to do a few minutes of tapping before you go to bed. You know, think ahead, kind of role play in your mind what you're going to be doing, and see what comes up for you, what emotions, what blocks, what beliefs, and tap on them. And that way your brain can be processing through that overnight too.
Right. Good. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. I just want to cover just one last little aspect for you. If you run out of things to work on, just write about your business. The tapping is also really good for clearing up limitations that are stopping you from getting the things that you do affirmations about. So if there's anything that you have tried to affirm into your life, some positive statement that you would really like to have something in your life and it's just not happened, try saying the affirmation out loud and then get really quiet and listen to the internal rebuttal in your mind. Those are things you want to tap on. So if you have an affirmation about some income goal and you say it out loud and you hear in your brain, yeah, like that's going to happen, or yeah, there's no way I'm worth that much money. Those are tappable things. Those are things you want to dig in on and find out what the roots are. In EFT training, those are called tail enders. They're the tail wagging the dog. They are your vibration about that particular subject. So you can say the affirmation till you're blue in the face, but as long as you have this conflicting belief inside yourself about what you're worthy of or capable of, that affirmation can't come to fruition. So take those as opportunities to dig in and tap on those issues so you can get what you want. Okay, Stefan, are you still around? You want to jump back on? I don't know if he's there. Does anybody have any other questions or comments or anything? Glenn, what I was talking about was borrowing benefits. And that's, you know, if you tapped along when I was tapping with Patty through all the tapping points, that's borrowing benefits. You should have seen some improvement in your issue when we were going through that. I hope I was clear about that instruction. I may have missed saying something that you needed to hear. Okay, good.
The other thing too, Lisa, is that it's very helpful to act for the person who's doing the tapping or echoing to actually speak. So if everyone else on this call was just listening, they didn't get the whole benefit. You actually need to say it.
That's true. Thank you for bringing that up, Patty. Yes, it is important when you tap along.
Probably fighting something. I have for the last couple days. I'm all
James,
right.
are you talking to us?
Poopy.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to say?
Oh. Nothing else to do.
Okay. Well, that's all I had. I was thinking this might take up to an hour and a half, but I think we're done in about an hour. So if there's nothing else, we'll just go call it done.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you.
Oh.